Welcome to another episode of Beyond the Brief. Today, we're absolutely fortunate to have Efrat Ravid with us. Hello, welcome.
Thank you so much for having me, Chris.
Thank you for being here. Efrat is an independent board member and advisor with Goldman Sachs Growth Equity. You've had an incredible career and more ahead. I mean, there's no doubt there's much more ahead. But why don't you get us started by telling us a bit about your background and what led up to where you are now?
Absolutely. So first, really, thank you. I'm excited to be here. So a little bit about myself. It's always really interesting, strange almost to talk about yourself. So I started my career as a software engineer. I studied engineering in Israel, computer science. And I actually started something much more broad. And my math professor came to me, one of the best teacher I've ever had. And he told me, you're going to be a stay-at-home mom anyway. At least study something really interesting. So computer science, I can see you doing, and really focus on math. And I have this thing about myself that I hear only what I want to hear. I mean, I could argue with him and fight about chauvinism, stay-at-home mom, it wasn't even in my mind, but I heard something like, you should study something you like, and you would do whatever you want with it. So I went to study computer science. I enjoy every part of it. And then I start working as a software engineer in robotics and do simulation of robotics and collision detection, like really math. Like, I don't know if you are very familiar with collision detection, but it's pure math. And working with that was a little less fun. I was in big room with a lot of PhD in math and myself, and it's a challenge. You need to use your brain all day long, but I missed the people part. And we launched a product, and I begged the product manager, please take me with you to the launch, please. Especially that in Israel, we don't have car manufacturing. Was robotic for the car manufacturing. So we went together to Torino, which is in Italy, to see Fiat, and to Birmingham, UK, to see Ford. And I fell in love with meeting customer. I fell in love with how they interact with the software. And I begged to be product manager, but they told me, you're too young, you're too young, you're too young. It's the only thing you cannot change. And between us, you don't want to change. And I went to be an application engineer, which is kind of a pre-sale, in a very technical product for a very small startup. I think we were 35 people. And because I didn't have experience, they sent me as far as they could to Asia Pacific, mainly China and Korea. And lucky, not luck. You never know. Hardworking. What was the reason? It was smashing success in Asia Pacific. Less than a year, I got 7 people reporting to me. We grew the region like crazy. We had Hyundai machine tools and like all the big manufacturing in Korea, in China. It wasn't like when you tell people China, they think Shanghai, Beijing. Yes, I landed there, Hong Kong, but I was manufacturing. So inland China, when you actually go to the toilet with a hole in like really like inland, doing application engineering, pre-sale, and then I did the post-sale. And it just was the most amazing experience to be in, to see how manufacturing work in different parts of the world. How, I was so technical. I laughed that I could install SAP in Mandarin from A to Z without even seeing it. I wish I got it back somehow. And the CEO really liked what we did there. And of course, the bigger opportunity was back then was in the US. We were acquired by a company, Dassault System. It's the biggest PLM, product lifecycle management company in Europe. And I was sent to the US. Now I will date myself. 2001 happened, 9/11. I'm here in visa in the US, and they decide to close this part of the department and moved me to a sister company, SolidWorks, which is computer-aided design.
Mm.
And, after I managed people at director level, blah, 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 they decided that the only position I have is product manager. It's like, to come back to Israel or to stay and see what the world can offer me. So I decided to kind of step back and see what product manager mean. And although it was my dream job like 4 years ago, right? Like now it's like, not as interesting. And I went to I call it the School of Business. I was surrounded by the most unbelievable business people, the CEO of John McElhenney and John Hershtick. After that, they opened another company, and it just was so interesting to see how they grow consistent. What is a culture? It's the first time I understand that culture beats any strategy any day, that the focus, how to take a company and really focus it on not only on the product and the customer, but
Mm.
actually don't get confused with who your competition, right? You
Right.
can have so much noise. Focus on who is going to be your competition in 3 years and focus it now. And a lot of business lessons I learned in that. I spent there 7, 8 years. And as a product manager, one of the products that really no one wanted, they really put me on the bottom of the button of the could, was free product. And with the encouragement of the CEO, we opened it to every competitor. And really quickly, we got hundreds of thousands of leads because everyone wants to use e-drawing. It's a way to take your CAD, customize it, and put it everywhere. And I work with a great company in India to help us implement it. And it was super, super interesting. But they came to me and said, now you got all these leads. What do we do with them? How we distribute them to channel? What we work? Like all the things that marketing needs to do. I'm
Right.
like, no idea. I'm a software engineer, doing collision detection, right? So I will start learning about what the channel needs and what does it mean a good lead and what does it mean engagement and building the trust. It's product-led marketing, right? When you give
Mm-hmm.
it's like the basic of product-led marketing and how you actually bring business from a free product and by building the trust of who you are, how you distribute the right leads, Shark Tank, all the things that is super, super interesting. And very quickly, I got the head of the marketing of this company. And this is how I fell in love with marketing. So this is my journey. From that, I work in cybersecurity, go back to a company named Click Software, sold to Salesforce. And the last 10 years, I work in analytics. Started in Content Square, amazing French company that was the first US employee here. And then we raised, it was just a great journey. And the last operating position I did was working with Quantometric, which was a great company when I started. I think we started in 20 million and over 100 plus million ARR, getting the biggest retailer, financial services, telco, all the big accounts came to us because the product and the culture and the people, everything I learned there, I could implement and work with amazing leadership in Quantometric as well. So super, super happy about my operating position so far.
That's fascinating. What a journey! And tell us a little bit about your current role as a independent board member and advisor at Goldman Sachs Growth Equity. Tell me a little bit about what that entails.
So a lot of executives get these phone calls and say, I just started a company. Can you help me? Right? I mean, a lot of executives, we cannot pay you and so on, but please help me. So one of the companies that happened to me, it was 6, 7 years ago. I don't know exactly when. I don't have my CV here. It was a Terra. Well, actually, the father of the CEO came to me. We met by chance in a somewhere, and he said, "Can you help my this company, and the company now super successful, amazing growth, just launched an unbelievable agentic AI solution for IT. And that was my first time that I advised. Like, it's very hard, by the way, as operator to advise, because we really want to do the stuff. Like,
Yeah.
what do you mean? Let's just do the launch. Let's just do it. Like, an advisor, you need to sit, you need to listen, you need to think about the strategy as executive, but then you need to let them do it, which is, in my opinion, the hardest part of advising. And then since then, I advised some other company in Finigrove that was recently acquired by Amplitude. And about a few years ago, I had the opportunity to be the independent board member of Lumaps, where Goldman Sachs were the main investors. And we did a nice outcome there. And they asked me to join them as a operating partner. And I started working with one or two companies, and I really enjoy it. And I felt like, they just get investment. For many of them, it's the first time they get 50 to 100, 200 million. And they tell them, okay, now you got the money, it's all good. Now the party starts, right? Now you need to grow really, 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 really fast. Don't stop, don't stop, just grow. And I love this speed, and I love helping these companies grow. And that's what I do now most of my time, helping this portfolio company and advising some of them with Goldman, some of them with other investor. And I really, really enjoy this part of my career.
I love it. We Model B at the agency I run, we work with a number of companies that are um, working to try and be on the radar of a Goldman or other private equity, or venture firms. And it's interesting as from a marketing perspective, trying to help the leadership understand um, how to have that right conversation, but also what is the right, and money is not the only part of the problem, right? You have to have the right culture fit and aligning with a partner that's going to invest in you that cares about what you're doing, not just about the economic potential, is something that we often help organizations think through. And but I admire part of the reason I'm in the agency world, because I've been on the client side as a CMO, I love the diversity of things I get to think about. And it sounds like you do as well. You thrive in that space of helping organizations think through. And with your background, what a great background to apply, lots of different, learnings and experiences in different organizations of all kinds of different sizes and shapes, to help them accelerate in very thoughtful and productive ways. So I imagine that's part of why that they were tapping you is that evident skill and passion combined is a unique mixture.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. And I think us as as operator, you just want to do, right? You have no time sometimes to think. You just do.
Yep.
And as an advisor, many times you step back and say, um, in the morning, I talk to healthcare company. In the afternoon, I talk to cybersecurity. And in the middle, it's marketing automation, right? And they are very different. Their ICP is very different. Their challenges are very different. Many, many things are very different. But there are also a lot of things that we can understand from each places and so on, and it can give them some perspective. I remember when I worked only in Quantometric for 7 years, I saw analytics. I mean, if you wake me up in the morning, you wake me up in the middle of the night, I think about analytics, how we help company to work better, to understand better the digital journey, digital transformation. That's what I cared about. But if you see some perspective from other industry, you can get better perspective in yours. And this is what I think interesting. And another point that I don't know if you feel it as in the agency is that the best companies actually doing it their own way, right? If you look at Airbnb, if you look at Uber. So I always feel that I'm on this thin line Maybe it's lack of confidence. I don't know. But it's the thin line between I don't want to interrupt what they are building by telling them what was done in my career, right? I want to adjust to the way they think and they operate and just give them a little different perspective just to think about. And it's very hard because if you see something completely different, scientists say, oh, what are you doing? Why are you inventing the wheel? But sometimes you need to invent the wheel.
Yeah.
So that, like, the things that I always conflict between myself is that should we invent the wheel and just see what happened? Or should we tell them this is a shortcut that other companies do? So I don't know if you have the same dilemma, but
One of the things we talk about a lot is if somebody's talking to you about best practices, um, think of them for what lessons they're teaching you about the way you're serving someone as a customer, not as a process you will copy.
yeah,
Uh, because if you always put the customer first, and meet their known and imagined needs, then you'll always be doing something of value. And a lot of times there's incredible room for improvement and novel ways to solve that problem. I spoke earlier today with the head of marketing, the CMO for a autonomous vehicle company, and the way they're thinking about the problem is, safety first is the marketing message, but freedom is the premise,
yeah,
right? Freedom to think and do other things, and what best practice could they look at to apply? So I totally agree. There's always lessons to be had from others, but you know, reading business books as a formula to follow is almost always a failure point because the market's changed. The dynamics of customer behavior have changed. I mean, you saw this at Quantometric all the time.
mhm,
Personalization changes constantly,
yep,
sometimes because of the weather, right? I mean, there's all kinds of dynamics there that have to be factored. One of the things that I think you talked about a lot at Quantometric was continuous product design. What does
yeah.
that mean? And is that a marketing phrase, or is that a way for Gartner to see the offering in a way that's clear and create a quadrant?
Yeah, it's very interesting the way you mention it. Is it a category? Is it methodology? It's probably all of that. But the idea is that you look at the analytics. It's something no one wants to do. Who wants to do analytics and go back and see what you did? And also between us, what you go back is not interesting. It's
Right.
always going real time forward. And also, what I love about digital, right? Unlike print or anything that is like, is that as soon as you do it, it can evolve. That's a continuous part, right? The idea is that digital is not a channel like some of the industry look at it. Digital is not only e-commerce. Digital is a product. And
Yeah.
when you look at product, what is the first thing come to your mind? Adjust to your customer, right? Good product is a product that need to fit your customers, right? We can see it as the best digital company, which is Amazon, right? Look at the obsess about the customer. And our goal was to look at all the industries, financial service and telco, companies that are not like were born to be digital, right? Retailer. Yes, COVID brought everyone to be digital, but it's still separate team. It seemed separate. And the idea is to make it continuous improvement and
Mm.
understand that continuous product design means that you don't launch your website, do your checkout and go and do some analytics and show it to the board. This is not what digital is. This is live and breathing, right? Product that you need to continuous improve, continuous design, continuous make it better. And how you do it is with great analytics. But analytics is only the tool. the how, it's like the alignment between teams. It's critical. If you don't have the alignment between your product team and the marketing team and the IT team, and they all work together to make sure that you have a really seamless product for the customer, they will buy somewhere else.
Yeah.
They will,
Right.
even with airline, right? You can buy in airlines, which is one of the biggest category for quotometric. You can buy it, or you can go to the OTA, and you will do it where it's easier, right?
Right.
Where you get a better customer service. Um, and our job is to make the customer better, right? Why to make it difficult to cancel? Usually when you cancel the flight, it's like a nightmare. Why you make it, if we can make it really easy? And the worst nightmare for every vendor is that you don't succeed to do it digitally, and you have two options, right? Or you leave and do it somewhere else if you can, or you call the call center, which is you are frustrated and a very not cost effective for the vendor. So
Right.
all that is under continuous product design.
Yeah, that it makes a lot of sense. And it's interesting because the ability with quantum metric or other solutions similar to it to provide a experience that is optimized in real time and continually learning and improving it's very much something that can be delivered and is being delivered by certain organizations, but their own structure internally, the silos, the operating groups, the teams are not that's almost the biggest barrier to providing that seamless experience in most cases. And so as a marketer, how did you help organizations think about that when you were working with quantum metric and, I mean, in my past, I worked on a UX optimization organization and we worked in telcos, and mobile companies a lot. And the product team was competing with the plan team, which was competing with the retention team, which was competing with the accessories team. And here they were in their same organization. The customer didn't know that, but they felt it.
Yeah.
Did you experience that? And were there ways that you helped?
Yeah, absolutely. And I will give you even a stronger example. I work now with um, companies that do the core, helping them to run really fast, as we talked before, and their job and what they are doing is they automate the core business layers of a company.
Yeah,
And the core business layers usually done by your ERP, right? Your ERP is what you do is you're doing the core business processes, but then you have a lot of exceptions, right? And all these exceptions are done by people. And then you build processes. I always think that processes are built because you don't have automation. So you build another process, and then you build another process, and the and then you need approvals, right? The
yeah,
entire ERP process is to give approval and so on. And instead of the ERP job is to make your life easier and and be as a system of record and really understand what happened, um, you actually make your team work um, on exceptions. In
yeah,
the core businesses, I will just, some people don't know it is like account payable is a core business, like, or adding supplier or everything that happened, for example, in the CFO house. And the CFO, many times they manage IT or not manage IT, but they get the least amount of IT, right, for their teams.
yeah,
And they build layers of processes because they want to reduce the risk and so on. And they, instead of having automation to do it. So this company does it all with agentic AI, agent for each process, and so on.
yeah,
And the main thing that, as you said, is that how you work with customers and say, guys, stop working in silos, stop working in these exceptions, really automate every part of the business, right? And it's true from manufacturing to retailers to financial service. It's true to almost every industry you and I will look at. We say, yes, there is a lot of manual work in the core businesses of the company that they build over the years. All company have more processes, right? Not only
Yep.
because it's just because it's over time and you don't change them and they're so ineffective. So how you actually now with Gen AI make it all automated, how much you bring the brain to the AI, and you talk about freedom and autonomous, and give the
Yeah.
team focus on what really matters, right? And not on making stupid decisions that are always like approve, approve, approve. How many times as CMO you just approve without even looking? If you don't look at it, at least AI will look at it. So things like that, I really love working with companies, even with the CFOs or with the people that are responsible for the processes, to automate it and make the alignment between the teams. And yes, analytics is part of it, but you can see it in ERP layers, you can see it in automation of core processes, you can see it in many, many other businesses, how you actually can automate and create this working and alignment together work much better.
Yeah. That makes sense. Um, as the world is evolving now with the public LLM use, how are you seeing companies? Well, I'll lead you a bit. We're seeing companies want to do websites like they did 10 years ago,
Mm.
and we're advising them to be responsive to the place in the journey a customer is coming into the digital experience that you manage and own, so that you're not like forcing them through a start to finish journey that is illogical. But as the public LLMs are playing a bigger role in early stage engagement and thinking, how are you advising some of the companies you're working with to think about their digital experience today?
That's a very interesting question. I just had a call with a company that want to do a press release about the raising fund announcement, and we're talking to a very, I would say, high-end PR agency out of New York, and we tell them about the story and so on. And we're writing the press release together, and then the head of the PR, now I won't mention the name, say, you know that we are writing it for MLL, right? And I said, not with MLM, but to MLM,
Right,
right?
right.
And he said, and I said, oh, I don't, I'm not, I usually write it to the analysts, to the competitors, and some of the prospects, no? Like that's when I write a press release, I'm thinking, who is going to read it for sure?
Yeah,
Definitely the competitors, right?
yeah,
But also analysts and future investors. And customers usually don't read it, but unless they are prospects that they want to show their manager, actually it's worth investing in this company and buy the product. And he said, no, mainly for MLL. And when I was thinking about it, I said, yeah, even the press releases that we are working on, it's for the MLL. So when you talk about websites and any type of content, yes, we need to think about both. How it's work for human being, because sometimes human being hand in your website. Probably most of, if you look at, depends on the industry, most of the traffic, it's actually people and not agents.
yeah,
Today you can, in different type of analytics, can see if it's agent in your site versus people, and it's still mainly people,
yeah,
but it might be changing. And yes, the MLL clone actually read your website, and you need to have the right content. So yes, you need to play with it. How much it is come from agent, and how much it's for people, and how much is for the MLL, and how much it's not. And I was talking with one of the companies and think about what's the best way to um, customize or optimize, that's a better word, optimize your website for um, the MLLs, that you will be find better if you go to OpenAI, you ask a question, I want my website to be linked there. And they told me, so now I need to work on MLL and not on human being. I said, you know what? We always done it even when we um, manipulated Google going over your website and crawl your website, right, with the metadata. Metadata are not for human being.
right.
And you did a lot of the links, right? How much we
Uh-huh.
work on links, creating hyperlinks and so on to be found. That wasn't for people. It was for
Right.
the Google engine. So instead of Google engine, think about MLL. but always think about, as you said in the beginning of the discussion, on your customer. Where your customer are going to find you and how you create content that actually for human. And yes, it needs to be designed also for the MLL, but also for you, mainly for human right now. I don't know what happened in 2 years, but now, right now, if we create a website, we need to create it, in my opinion, for human. Other content, create for MLL, like press release.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, it's changing so rapidly, but I agree. I think um, that LLMs are there's certainly some context areas that are purposely for just the LLMs,
Yeah,
but the LLMs can evaluate stuff that's for humans just as well, and so being mindful that content will be seen by humans and LLMs, I think allows you to serve both responsibly without pandering to one or the other or diminishing it for either.
yeah,
And I think that's where the human in the loop factor comes in, right? Is being discreet about that and learning how to do that effectively. Um, um, you've had a fascinating career in lots of different industries, and now you're advising all kinds of different companies. As you think back, Beyond the Brief is very much a conversation with marketers and business people around, the best laid plans being uh, thrown a curveball around an insight that came from somewhere they hadn't expected. Do you have examples of that you'd care to share?
of examples of things I didn't expect for, you mean?
Well, of where, you had a plan for something marketing wise and you'd written it down and the team had started working on it. And then, from a consumer insight or a competitive action or something going on in the, pop culture, an insight occurred to the team that you pulled in after you'd started work to leverage on the work that you were actually eventually going to kick off.
Yeah, I have many examples that you start one way, then you move left, and then you move right. Let me think. My favorite story is actually early on in my career when I work in the card industry, as I mentioned, and we ran a campaign that called First Aid. It looked like a first aid, very scary, a little like red and white. And it's like first aid that if you get injured, this is what you get. And um, a very senior person in the room saw this campaign. It was somebody new that just came and said, "Oh my God, this is the worst campaign I've ever seen. Who scares your customer? Who would even do it and why?" I was like, you know, and it's a first aid for what? Something bad can happen. And like, it was a lot of emotion in the room. That was very early in my career back then. So I just started marketing. I said, you know what? Tell me your background. And it was a new executive and it was a little out of the question. And he's like, I was executive in sales and this huge company that I don't want to say the name. And then now I'm executive here. And what do you mean my background? So exactly, I'm selling to mechanical engineers. Have you been a mechanical engineer? No. So let's try it. I mean, the worst case, it won't work. And we send it to customers. And I have to tell you, I don't remember freaking out so much in my career since since that day, right? It's like I'm sending a package, which is very expensive, we decided to start with 1,500 customers and see the reaction. And otherwise, I won't tell you the story, but the reaction was really, really good. And what I learned is that why it was good, right? And it was very scary. It was good because I felt that somebody is there for the help. You send the
Mhm.
first aid for mechanical engineers to see that somebody can help.
Right.
And we adjust many times the campaign of help. And then we said, okay, they want to first aid. let's do a for dummies book, right? That also helps them understand better. So we ran a campaign of for dummies book, but then I was much more confident. We just did it and we sent it to a ton of customers. And most region it works, except for two regions,
Hmm.
Germany and Japan. And I said, okay, I have to understand why, right? You said you do something and you just want to learn it. And I took a trip to Japan and went to the agency of Yahoo that back then were more successful than Google even in Japan. And I said, okay, you have to tell me why the mechanical engineers like don't like the reseller don't want to have it in his office. I translated to Japanese. I printed it. It's like it's like I'm a mechanical engineer. I studied 6 years in Japan to study statistics. And you call me for dummies? Like, and you have a 1 minute tip. I also ran a campaign of 1 minute tip. 1 minute tip for mechanical engineer. I need a 60 minutes to just learn. Otherwise, I'm not mechanical engineer. And it's like here it's all fast and give it to me now, give it to me yesterday. I want it fast and for dummies and it's great.
Hmm.
And there I always said we need to not dumb it down, we need to smart it down, right? We need
Hmm.
to simplify it, not to make something complicated, but you have to be smart about it. They don't want fast, they want serious. It's not that they want complex, but they want the seriousness part of the business. And this is something I learned about cultures, right? It's not, you cannot ignore cultures as part of your um, campaigns. If it's not one thing fit all. You talk about personalization. Of course, in the culture, it's not everyone the same,
Yeah.
but there are some basic things that you cannot cross the line. And that's
Yeah.
what really good lesson for me.
Yeah. That's a great example. Uh, Along those lines, I worked on, I was at the agency that managed the Hewlett Packard Personal System Group global advertising, and I ran the account. And it was the first time they'd ever had a global unified campaign because they used to do it regionally. And we found that there was so much cost and waste in that it was not efficient. And so we did a global campaign. But as you know, global campaigns are hard because those cultural differences, um, and the nuance of localization and transcreation, are definitely factors. But what we found that was universal truth is that um, the category was treating the technical leads, the CTO and their team in enterprises. They're quite large, and they were treating them as not intelligent, and they just talked about speeds and feeds and very technical stuff that was the table stakes. Everybody has the same for the most part. And so we actually talked about the reliability as five nines reliability not being enough, and we actually wrote it as a haiku and honored their intelligence by having a little puzzle in each ad. And it worked phenomenally well everywhere but a couple places because it felt like it was making it harder for them to access the information culturally. And but fascinating how that works, right?
Yeah.
And having been a global and being a global thinker and marketer, are there other examples that I often, it's funny, I often talk in like career days, and I often refer to how even the animals speak differently
Yeah.
and have cultural differences, and often will reference that the way that in the way children are educated in the stories they're told, the way that animals sound and act are different. In some places, roosters are annoying. In some places, they're very proud.
Yeah.
And it's just interesting how that plays. So I'm curious if you have other cultural stories as part of your journey.
Yeah, so I have a ton of them because most of my career I worked for for French companies. I spend a lot of time in the US. I go back to Israel. I travel a lot. Started in Asia Pacific, so I have ton of stories. But one of my favorite one is actually loyalty in Korea.
Mm.
So I spent time with one of the leading company in manufacturing there. Took us a long time to close the deal, a long time. I cannot tell you how many demos I did. I mean, seriously, like every part. And then when they signed the deal, it was a loyalty act in both sides. It wasn't a regular partnership. I felt like from now on, my job in life is to make them successful. And it's true for many companies, right? Of course, we sign a deal, we need to make them successful. But over there, they work like, if you get fired in the US, it's not nice and so on. But first, it happens, right?
Mm-hmm,
You
mm-hmm.
don't work for the same company all your life. And second, yeah, I want all my customers to get promoted. By the way, I really want them. Like,
Yeah.
it's like, something I share. Like every time my customer get promoted, I share. So I don't want you to think that I want my customer to get fired. But it's not the end of the world, like where I work there. It was like, it's one company that they work all their life, right?
Yeah.
And it's this, they have few brands there. Some of them we know here. And we know them as car manufacturers, but these car manufacturers do everything. They do machine tools, they do everything. It's the same
Yeah.
families, and you work for them all your career. And there is no freaking way that you're going to make such a big mistake. So
Yeah.
if they sign an agreement with you, you have to make them successful. Like,
Yeah.
it's part of, it's part of every part of your body. It's more than everywhere else. I don't know even how to explain it. It's like,
Mm.
so this is something I learned in my career. I was a VP of marketing. This is a little lighter, VP marketing in software as a British company. And my job was to take the team in the UK, kind of eliminate a big mistake to do in your day one. If you talk about mistakes in your career, this is a big one. And move them to the US. So really hire like 25, 30 people in the US and let go 25, 30 people in Abington, UK, a small town that everyone knows everyone. The first day
Right.
I came, the VP of product gave me a book that's called Englishness. And he said, in the US, everyone thinks that in English, in the UK, everyone is the same. But we are so different, depends of where you are. It's like here, right?
Mm.
Midwest, California, East Coast, right? It's different. It's not the same
Very.
people. But it seems that in the UK, it's even more extreme. And I read this book and I said, oh my God, what I got myself in. And then we had this regular meeting with the US new marketing team and the product team in the UK. And in the US, it's like, how are you? Great, right? Wonderful. I had such a great day. It's like, what's so great?
Yeah.
Why is I great? What is like, is it decent, solid? What is
Yeah.
great? You won't get great. So that was something I also learned. Like when you say something in one culture, you actually mean something different in another culture. And
Yeah.
the language, although it's English, it's very, very, very different. And it means very, very different in different places.
Yeah. I grew up in the Ogilvy system early in my career and had the good fortune to go through their executive training program, and then actually was trained as a trainer and did training all over the world. And a module that we had in our training for the account people and strategists was how yes, no, and maybe mean different things in
Yeah.
different places. And it was amazing how many times people would come to that session going, "What on earth do you mean?" And then we would actually back then we played tapes, videotapes of interactions that you would then assume was a yes. And there even may have been a yes committed verbally, and yes did not mean let's proceed. It meant something completely different. And I'm sure you've experienced that, certainly having been in South Korea, and Asia broadly, and in the Middle East, in parts of Europe. I mean, it's such a interesting dynamic, and understanding that and the motives and the cultural differences and down to the individual is very difficult. And how have you are there lessons that you learned along the way that you reflect on with a smile now?
Yeah.
And as you advise companies, how does that play a role as well?
Yeah, absolutely. So the reason I'm smiling is many times, yes, mean acknowledging. But I come from Israel, right? And it's a very, very direct um, culture. Very, very
Mm,
direct. Like we say what we mean. Sometimes we don't filter. And if you have, my son was, I think, 4 years old, and we were with another family in Boston. Back then, I lived there, and they played, and they, like 2, 4 years old, make a lot of 4 years old noise, right? And the neighbor came out and said, "Oh, such a nice kid, such nice kids. Can they play out there, like
right.
somewhere else, right?" In Israel, and there's other like, and very nice, very polite with a smile. In
Mm,
Israel, it's like, go the fuck away and blah, blah,
right.
blah. What are you, why is it making so much noise? I have to go away.
Right.
And, they actually mean exactly the same.
Right.
Yeah, right. We would shoot you if your kids won't go away and continue
Right.
make so much noise with a smile and nicely.
Right.
And it's exactly the same meaning. And it took us, when we moved here, a couple of years to understand it. Because
Yeah.
everyone is so polite, which is, by the way, really nice to live in a polite environment that no one yells and so on. It's much nicer. But it takes a little time to understand that they actually mean exactly the same,
Yeah.
just with different tone, words, and so on. Again, it's not a language, it's what's in here.
Yeah.
And exactly what you say, they say yes, but they actually mean, I understand what you mean. It doesn't mean,
Yeah.
yes, I will do it. Just say, yes, I
Right.
acknowledge that this is what you said.
Yeah.
Um, and yeah, and you need to learn to listen to the subtitles, right? You need to learn the nuance. And what I learned in my career, that you actually need to ask. That many
Yeah.
times I managed team from different around the world, from India, from different place in Europe, from Asia Pacific, from South America. And many times I didn't understand the culture. And I
Mm,
didn't, I could read the book Englishness of every culture, but just to ask them, so what actually do you mean? Like,
yeah.
just, I don't understand. You have to explain me. What exactly do you mean? And I think this question in every culture, going deep, it's actually very appreciated.
Yeah. No, I agree. And there's a if you ask it right, there's no offense taken in it, right? It's actually a compliment, in that I want to understand. And one of the universal truths of human nature is to want to be understood and heard,
That's a
right?
that's a big deal. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Yes, you're
Yeah.
absolutely
Um, Along your journey, what's some of the best advice you've received and from whom?
So one of them was, just do it or just try. Don't ask for permission. And the worst case, you will make a mistake. And I adopted it every part of my career. I mean, in the end of the day, we want to do more good than bad. And we will make some mistakes, but just do it. If you start asking and do processes and so on, you won't get anywhere. Just try, just do it and move on. The second thing, I don't know if it's an advice or it's something that I just adopted in my life. I started the story with that, is just hear what you want from when somebody talks to you, take only the things that are good for you. Even if they are not happy about what, or even if you are not happy, I mean, you can argue about everything and you can try to make the world much better. But in the end of the day, take the things that are really important to you and move on. I mean, when somebody say no to me, I hear not now, right? I don't hear,
Right.
you cannot do it. I mean, of course I can do it. Maybe not with you, maybe not right now, maybe not this way. But what do you mean it actually don't mean no, in my opinion. I mean,
Yeah.
just adjust.
Right.
Adjust to what do I need to do to get yes? Many times I ask this question, by the way. Okay, I understand your point of view. What do I need to do to get a yes? But sometimes I just hear what I want. So hear what is good for you. I mean, I'm not saying completely Yeah, I hope my kids don't listen to that, but um, yeah, just understand what you want and move on, and don't stuck with they say, she said, they them said. It doesn't help anyone.
Yeah, no, that's great advice. So you've had a phenomenal career, so much so, and again, there's much more ahead, but um, so much so that one of my contacts in Hollywood called, and they're going to do a biopic on you. What's the name of the film, or who's going to play you, and or what's the plot or theme?
So yeah, it's a very interesting question. Like I don't know really how to answer it, but there is one theme in my life which I feel maybe because I addicted to sport and to running and to swimming, and maybe because you say you have, well, every time somebody said, "Yo, you have a great career," and said, "I'm just starting." What do you mean I had a great
Mm.
career? It's like, so I feel like nothing can stop me now. Like that's what I, with the Gen AI, I feel the opportunities out there. Like
Mhm.
we just need to find them, right? Life just starts. And don't stop me. Don't interfere. Or just let's go. So I think something like nothing can stop us now.
I like that.
And one of my favorite actress, so I don't know if she would want to play me, but I would love to. Like it's Jennifer Aniston, and I like how human she is. Like I
Yeah,
like how, like if to me she is like what a woman needs to be. Like really um, going forward, confident, not afraid to say what she thinks, not afraid to be a woman. So to me, it's something that is super important to me. So
I love that. I love that. And it's true to everything you've said throughout our conversation today that you've enjoyed your ride, but you're only getting started and there's much more ahead and that curiosity will fuel you forward. Efrat, it's been an absolute joy speaking with you today. I know our listeners are going to value all you shared tremendously. So thank you so much for being with us.
thank you so much, Chris.
All right. And with that, we will wrap up another episode of Beyond the Brief. As always, tune in again. There's always more to come. For now, we'll part with Efrat saying thank you so much. And until next time.
Thank you so much. It was wonderful.